welcome back to my channel. It's Antonia. I really wanted to make a fun video for you guys, but after trying to film it, I don't think that's how this video is going to turn out, but hopefully it is informative. I want to make a disclaimer. I live in Ontario, so restrictions have opened in my province, and I'm sure some of your provinces have already opened up as well, and some states as well, but freestanding stores are able to open up. So if you're not in a mall, then you're able to open up. And I had a bunch of returns that I needed to do. My last clientele haul, you would have known that I had a few things I was unsure about. The Aritzia online return process is typically pretty seamless, but because I am so lucky, I didn't have that same experience. So I just wanted to go in store and return the item, so I got my credit back right away. And I figured I would bring you guys along with me and share my experience. So I didn't get too much footage in store, but I will show you guys clips here and there while I'm talking throughout the video. But I did want to go over the email that Aritzia had sent out to their clientele. Sorry, I'm actually looking for it right now, talking about the health and safety guidelines that they have put in place to make a shopping experience more comfortable for their clients. First things first, their new health and safety measures include: 1, reduced boutique capacity. So I went to the Shops at Don Mills location here in Toronto. The store opened at 11 a.m. I got there around like 11:05, maybe 11:10, and there was already a lineup. Lineup wasn't too big. I'm thinking there was a lineup just because they were reducing capacity. It took me maybe 20 minutes to get into the store, but honestly the store was pretty packed for reduced capacity. That there's like quite a bit of a lineup to try to even get into the change room. One side of the boutique had a bunch of people waiting for the change room, and the other side just had random people shopping throughout it. So personally, I didn't think it was very much reduced. There was quite a few people in there. Second, they said they would have social distance guide markers, which they did. They had social distance guide markers, but I don't think people were very good at following instructions. After I got there and I stood 6 feet away from the group in front of me, everyone else following that group in front of me was basically like in a regular line, as if nothing was wrong. So that's not really Aritzia's problem. That's just their clientele kind of being reckless, but they had social distance guide markers. 3, they have hand sanitizer available throughout the whole store, and yes, they did. As soon as you walk into the store, they ask you to sanitize your hands. I also did notice a few hand sanitizer stations around the store, so they did have that in place. 4, they said they would limit fitting room capacity, and I think that they were doing that, but because of that, they had a huge lineup that once again was not social distance. So there was just a bunch of women lining up across the entire store waiting to get into the fitting room. If you've been to the Shops at Don Mills location, you know that the fitting rooms is quite spacious, but they don't have that many rooms. So I think there's about like 6 or 8 rooms in there. So the good part is, if you do go into the fitting room, then yeah, you can technically social distance. But the bad part is, if you do go into shop, you will have a huge lineup just to wait to get into the fitting room. 5, they said they would sanitize products in fitting rooms after each use. Now, I didn't actually go into the fitting rooms and try items on personally, but my friend from Vancouver did go into the stores. She said she didn't notice any of the items being sanitized. They were just kind of sanitizing the hangers, and the rooms were not being sanitized after each use. I'm not sure how they are trying to implement that, or if they are implementing that, but I didn't notice any of that stuff happening personally either. But once again, I wasn't personally in the change room, so I could have just not seen it. But at my friend's location, she didn't notice any of that stuff happening. She just noticed the hangers being sanitized, and if your product is not sanitized and your hanger is sanitized, it kind of just cancels out the point of sanitizing the hanger in the first place. So I don't know what that was about. 6, they said they will have contactless payment. I'm thinking maybe they always had the tap, but usually tap doesn't work over $100, so I'm thinking maybe they have lifted that. But once again, I didn't purchase anything. I went in to do a return, so I'm not sure if that's 100% let me know in the comments down below if you guys have been to a store and you were able to just tap and your order was like maybe like over $100. 7, they said they would sanitize the cash deck and debit terminal after each client. And personally, when I went in for my return, I was there for literally maybe 5 minutes. So I went into the store, sanitized my hands, walked straight to the return section of the store. There was one family in front of me. It was just like a mom and her 2 daughters who were doing returns in front of me, and I went to my social distance marker, stood there, waited to go into the lineup, and I didn't notice that they sanitized the counter or the cash deck or the debit terminal. But to be fair, on the return side, because I think everyone is returning things from clientele, there's no use for the client, aka customer or me, to be touching anything. So I didn't touch any of the debit machines, so maybe that's the reason why, because there's only one cashier who is cashing you out or processing your returns. So maybe that's why they didn't do it, but I didn't notice any of that. 8, they said they would have regular sanitization of surfaces throughout the boutique. And once again, I don't work at a boutique and I wasn't there long enough to notice any of this stuff, but I'm sure they are implementing that. I'm hoping they're implementing that. I'm hoping that they didn't just write this in an email. Number 9, they said they would have masks for Aritzia team members and available to clients if they choose. Now, all the Aritzia team members were wearing masks, but I don't know if they were giving them to clients if you requested them, because I brought my own mask. So I already had that on when I lined up, and I had that on the entire time. So I didn't actually ask, but hopefully if you do go in and you do need a mask or you feel comfortable wearing a mask, let me know in the comments down below if they offered you one. The last one is that they said they'd have a dedicated nurse available. So it doesn't say dedicated nurse available at each location. So I don't know, there's no clarification in that. I did read some of the Instagram comments and there was some people who were saying, is it true that you're going to have a dedicated nurse on staff at each store? And they said no. What they did have at the location I was at that I saw, so I don't know if there was a nurse in the back or if there was a nurse at all, was a community healthcare rep. And basically he was the person that was manning the line and making sure you sanitized your hands before you even entered the store. To me, that's not a nurse. And I asked him, he was not a nurse. He just said he normally works at the downtown locations or whatever. So I don't think he was a dedicated nurse. He was basically there to make sure that the Aritzia capacity wasn't over and that everyone was sanitizing their hands. Truthfully, if you had a nurse in the store, I don't think there was much that they could do for you. If you felt some sort of sickness or illness, they would just call for an ambulance for you. And truthfully, if you did have symptoms, I don't think you should be going into a store because you're just being reckless for everyone else's sake. And it just doesn't make sense. Even now, I wouldn't go back into go shopping. My overall experience with being in store during this time is that I probably wouldn't go in if I was itching to go shopping. Now, I'm personally an introvert, so I have no issues staying at home all day, every day. But I know some of you are itching to go out, and honestly, I don't think it's worth it. It's just so hectic in there, and I don't get anxiety over crowds, but just being in there and seeing all the women going like kind of like bonkers because they are literally having cabin fever, it was just like, are you guys savages? Like, I don't understand what's happening. Realistically, there's no point of going in store unless you really were like me and trying to just do a return. But going in store to shop and spending like X amount of time in that store, it's kind of unnecessary. Sorry I couldn't capture a lot for you. I really wanted this to be like a really fun video so you guys could go out. I wanted to make a video for you guys that would be like fun, but once I got there I realized it was just not fun. It was just not possible to be fun. And then I figured I would make this because it would be at least informative for some of you guys, because I had a lot of questions asking if I've personally been in store yet, and I didn't have any plans to go, but I did have the return, so that's the reason why I ended up doing so. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video regardless. Leave me comments down below on what you guys would like to see in my next videos? I would love to know. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at _HelloHarley, although I usually typically post stories letting you guys know kind of a sneak peek of what I'm doing, but this time it was just so hectic that I didn't even pull my phone out. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. Make sure to stay safe, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.